And then from the point of view of, if you're looking at the people that are committing crimes, there's the unfortunate reality that people mimic their environment. And if you grow up in an environment where there are no positive role models and you see nothing but rampant crime around you, even good people go down bad paths.
You get, okay, so antisocial personality is somewhat heritable. There is some familial transmission. There is a role played by fatherlessness in particular. And that's perhaps because fatherless boys tend to turn towards a gang orientation, and the gangs of adolescents have a short-term time horizon. So they future discount badly, and that produces a proclivity for short-term gratification, and that includes like idiot criminal behavior.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So what you need in a father, you need someone who encourages intelligent, upward-aiming sacrifice and an orientation towards others and future development. Right? That's what the spirit of the father really does, is that encouragement. So, and that, what? Reward for delay of gratification. So that's another indication of the relationship between, say, upward striving, moral orientation and maturity. If you're mature, you can delay gratification. And what does that mean? It means you've integrated the future into your perceptions. Right, and that has to be socially scaffolded, especially for men. Women, they get initiated by nature. In every society that we know of, men have to be initiated. Right, because that catalyzation of maturity is a difficult thing. Difficult and unlikely, but possible and necessary. So
how do you reach the people that are young adolescents that are trapped in that vicious cycle?
Yeah. Well, I think I can tell you the answer to that. You know, a lot of young men have been watching and listening to the sorts of things that I've been writing about and producing. And every time someone comes up to me and tells me that reading, say, 12 Rules for Life had helped them, I ask why. It's like, okay, good. What changed? And the overwhelming pattern of response is something like, I started to understand the necessity of responsibility. Now, you might then ask, well, you hear from your parents, in principle, you hear from the school system, although that's probably gone, that, you know, you should grow up and be responsible. Why did it make a difference? Why did it make a difference to you to read that in what I wrote? And the answer is, I think the answer is, I didn't take the standard conservative approach. I didn't say, you should, you must, you ought, even though those things are true. I said, there's no difference between responsibility and adventure. That's a killer thing to know. The heavier the responsibility, the more profound the adventure. And so everyone knows that, but it's not catalyzed, eh?
Right.
So I just watched The Hobbit a while back, classic adventure story. And of course, it's Bilbo, to begin with, it's Bilbo. He's this little hobbit, right? Sort of like Abraham. He's living his comfortable life, and the wizard comes along and says, it's time for you to develop your shadow side, because, of course, he becomes a thief, and to go on your adventure. And he agrees to do that, and it's a weighty adventure. He has to contend with the ring of power. Right, that's the ultimate in temptations. That's the temptation that Christ is offered by Satan in the desert, the temptation of power. And that's the temptation that Bilbo has to contend with. Well, he has this adventure. Well, what's the adventure? It's responsibility. He has to carry that ring. And it is one of the rings that unites everything, power. It's just the malevolent ring that unites everything. And so I've been suggesting to young men in particular, it's like, you want to get your life together? Take the path of maximal responsibility. Not because you should, even though you should. That's not why. It's because that's the pathway of maximal adventure. So you say, well, what's the meaning of life? It's like, it's the meaning that reveals itself when you take the pathway of maximal responsibility. That's exactly the message of the crucifixion. That's precisely the message. Pathway of maximal responsibility. And that's a terrifying thing. There's no difference between that and the dragon and treasure stories that are, you know, unbelievably archaic. The greatest possible treasure is to be found where the danger is most intense.
Right.
Yeah. Always.
Right. The dragon guards the gold.
Always.
Right.
Well, and so one thing to know is that if there's a dragon, there's a treasure somewhere.